Let's implement another really cool and modern feature using the Intersection Observer API. And this time we're going to reveal elements as we scroll close to them. And this effect can give your pages a very nice touch, and you can in fact easily implement it without any external library. So the effect that I mean is this one here with the sections. So watch what happens here. So you see that we basically reveal each section as we approach it. All right. So I'm not talking about these images here yet. So I'm just talking about the sections. So see how it basically slides in like this. All right. And so that's what we're going to do now with all these 4 sections. Now the animation itself actually comes from CSS. And so once more, we will actually achieve this by simply adding a class to each of these sections as we approach them. And so we will do that using the Intersection Observer API once again, because that's really the perfect job for this tool. Okay, so let's actually take a look at our CSS here. So I'm going to write or to search for a section hidden. So this is the class here. And so basically all the sections by default have this class. So let me show that to you also. Well, actually they don't. And of course they don't, because then we could not see them right now. Okay, so we have to add them now as we build this. And so this will basically give them an opacity of 0, and it will move them a little bit down. And so then when we remove this here, it will then move them back up to a translate of 0 rem, basically. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to start by adding this section, or this class actually, to all the 4 sections that we want to apply this effect to. So this one here, then the next one, number 3, and number 4. Yeah. And so now all of them will disappear. Okay, they're simply invisible. They're still there, so we are still like displaying them, and so they preserve their height, basically, but they're now invisible. And so our job is now to remove this class as we approach each of these sections. So reveal sections. So let's say a section observer, new intersection observer, and then here the callback, and let's already create it here. Let's call it reveal section, like this. Entries, and this time we will need the observer, and you will see in a minute why that is. So observer, and of course these parameters here, as always, can have any name that we want, right? So just like in the callback functions of the array methods, where we can also give them any name. And here it's the same, but this is kind of the standard, and so that's why I keep doing it like this. So reveal section, and then the object of options. So we want to observe all the 4 sections actually in this case. And it is indeed possible to observe them all using the same observer. So let's select all the sections, and then we will observe these as multiple targets, all using this observer that we just created here. So all sections is document.querySelector all. And so that's simply the class section. And now we can loop over this node list with for each. So we use for each whenever we want to do something which does not involve creating a new array. And so here the callback function, I will call it section. And then, just like before, we will use our observer to observe section. And actually, since we're already looping over all these sections, it would probably be a better idea to add this class here, so this section hidden, also using JavaScript. So not do it manually here in the HTML, and instead do it in JavaScript. Because some people actually disable JavaScript in their browser, and then for those users, the page wouldn't really be visible, right? They would then have no way of removing this class. And so this is probably not a good idea. So I will copy it now, and then I will just undo everything we did. So yeah, so now it should be back to normal, and it is. And now I will do that programmatically here. So that's a lot better. Don't know why I didn't think of that right away. So class list add, and so this is nothing new at this point. Let's see. And now they are back to being hidden. So let's start by taking care here of these options. And as always, the root is going to be the viewport, so null, and then the threshold. We will set it to something greater than 0. And that's because we don't want to show the section right as it enters the viewport, but a little bit later. So let's say 15%, for example, for now. So this will make it so that the section is only revealed when it is 15% visible. All right. So this is all of the setup. And now let's create basically the logic. So in here. And once again, we have only one threshold. And so let's get that entry from the entries using destructuring. And as always, let's start by logging the entry here. Give us some more space. This 90 is coming from up here, so we don't need that anymore. Okay, and so now we see that some section here is already being intersected at 0%. And so now actually this target element will become important. And well, right now there is no target because this first, so to say, event is always triggered no matter what. So let's scroll a little bit until 15% of the first row is intersected. And of course, that intersection happens even though we cannot see it. So we don't see the row, but still it is now 15% intersecting. And now the target here is actually important. And so here we actually have the class name. So section and section hidden. And so this means that actually a certain section did now intersect the viewport. Maybe we can see the ID. Oh yeah, here it is. So it was the section 1 indeed. So the one with the ID of 1. And this target will now actually be important because now we want to make exactly this section visible, not all of the sections, right? But we are observing all of the sections here with this same observer here, right? And so now we need a way of knowing which is the section that actually intersected the viewport. And so that's what we can use the target for. And so let's do that. So that's at entry dot target. And now we can, as always, manipulate that class list and remove this section or this class that hides it. And you see that it's already working. Well, it actually happens a bit too soon, it appears. But on this one, it was perfect. Let's see the next one. And again, it worked just fine. And the last one as well. Let's try again this one here. And for some reason, it's already there. And I guess the reason for that is this first entry here that always gets printed in the beginning. So yeah, you see that the target here is actually this first section. Now it is not intersecting, and so let's now use that to our advantage. So we only want to trigger this removing here when the section, so when the target is actually intersecting. So if entry dot is intersecting, then do this. And actually, I'm going to use another guard clause here. So I will do the opposite. So I say, if it's not intersecting, then return right away. Okay? But if it is intersecting, then the function will not return, and simply the rest of our code is going to be executed. So let's try that one more time. And now you see it's not yet visible, but it will become visible soon. And there it is. Beautiful, and it still works. All right. So that's a really nice effect, right? We can just do one more small improvement, which is to now unobserve these sections. Because you see, as we keep scrolling, the observer keeps observing the sections. So you see, as we keep scrolling here, more and more of these events keep getting added. But in fact, they are actually no longer necessary because we already did all the work that we wanted. And so we can now unobserve. And so that is again by doing observer.unobserve, so the opposite of observe. And then again, we need to pass in which element should be unobserved. And so in this case, that comes from entry.target. So let's see what happens now. So the first time, of course, we get these logs here because, of course, work is being done. But right after that, each of these sections is being unobserved. So let's go to the end here. And when we clear this now and keep scrolling, you see that we get no more events here. And so that means that none of these sections is being observed anymore. And so that's going to be even a little bit better for our performance. All right, and that's actually it. So another really cool use case of the intersection observer API.